Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Kata, and if you're returning, then welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then welcome to the channel. I talk about a lot of different things. Most of them are my process of how I deal with just life's stress and the things that life throws at me, and how I evolve and choose to move forward in difficult times. And that is mostly what I share on this channel. So check out some of my other videos where I talk about other challenges and just different things that I've overcome throughout the years of my life so far. And today I wanted to share something about codependency, and I felt it was very important to make this video about codependency because many of us don't even realize how codependent we are until we wake up to the fact that we are codependent, and until it really sinks in, and until you fully understand what codependency actually is or what it looks like. I think it's hard to determine that you're in it or that you're doing it. And so how I overcame codependency is really what I'm sharing today. And I wanted to share this because it's just extremely important for individuals, for us to become independent in all facets of our lives, in all aspects of our lives. And when you're not able to be independent, when you're not able to be in that strength within yourself, then that is when we often seek codependency, and we seek external validation and people on the outside to validate us, or situations from the outside to validate us. And it's extremely unhealthy, actually, because what I've come to understand in my own journey of codependency is that I am always choosing like who is around me and what kind of people I surround myself with and who I allow into my life. I'm always choosing that, and I'm always consciously aware of that, or maybe not consciously aware of it. But I've come to understand that my awareness of who I allow into my life is really what determines whether I'm going to be like codependent or not in a relationship. And I also came to realize that a lot of my codependency actually comes from my childhood. It comes from seeing codependency within the family. And it also comes from just seeing it within society, around, the people that surrounded me throughout my life. And I really understood what codependency was, but that didn't come until like literally this year. I've always kind of seen, and I've kind of sensed, and I've gotten a feel for imbalanced relationships. Like you can kind of tell, right? But I never identified it as codependency. I never realized what that was. So what is codependency? It's truly, and I actually didn't even know what this word kind of meant, to be honest with you. I really didn't. It was not a part of my vocabulary, let's just put it that way, for many, many years, for most of my life. And codependency really is a constant need or desire to be validated externally, usually through other people, or like I said, situations or circumstances, but it's typically through people. We are codependent with people. We are longing for their approval. We seek their approval. Codependency is also a behavior that truly comes from psychology. Like it comes from the mind. It comes from an awareness of some kind within you, that or a belief, I should say, not an awareness, but a belief within you that you are not good enough on your own, as you are, just you. If you had nothing, no possessions, no people in your life, nothing at all, if we just strip everything away and it was just you, how would you feel? Like, would you feel powerful? Would you feel within yourself? Would you feel like you're good enough to really do whatever you want to do in life, and to conquer the world, and really, accomplish your dreams and goals? Like, would you feel that way? No, most of us don't. Most of us really need external things in our lives to help us to feel like we're successful, or to help us to sort of validate, that feeling of accomplishment, or of success, or of belonging, actually, because codependency has a huge tie with belonging. And that was actually something too that I came conscious of, and realizing that I didn't truly feel like I belonged anywhere. Even within my own family, I felt different. I felt like I was just kind of not like the rest of them. And because of that, I also felt sort of very isolated, just because I was very different as a kid, and just, and we're not talking like crazy differences here. I was just simply a more quiet, more reserved, more introverted child. I did a ton of observing. Um, always in my surroundings, and I was always looking at what like the adults were doing and how they were doing it and why they were doing it. Like I was always I feel like I was always analyzing people when I was growing up, and that really turned me into a very analytical person from the perspective of other people. But at the same time, that analysis happened because I was constantly looking at people's behaviors. I was constantly seeing, like, it's like I was always looking for people's moods, and I was always looking and observing how people were feeling or what kind of vibe I was getting off of them. And then I would respond to them based on that vibe. Like how, if I could tell like my grandma was sad, then I would like go and give her a hug, and I would go and try to make her feel better. And this really truly like evolved over time and became a huge part of my personality, which was truly this codependency thing. Like I really didn't feel good within myself unless I was doing something to make somebody else feel better. Or, it's like unless I was filling somebody else's cup, like I felt like I wasn't good enough. Like I felt unseen and I felt unheard. And I think that's a big reason why I developed such an insane like codependency. And then when I look back on my relationships, like all of the relationships that I had in my teens and in my 20s, um, all of those relationships were extremely codependent, actually, many of them. And I really didn't see it. I really didn't identify it until actually more recently, of how I behaved and what behaviors I was doing, like this constant need, for like, and it was so interesting. Like if I think about it, I always felt like I needed, my boyfriend to validate like that, oh, like you're pretty or you look good or whatever. And now I just don't, because I'm not dressing for anybody else. I'm dressing for myself, and I'm dressing to make sure that I'm happy and that I feel really fucking good in my skin. Um, I don't care what anybody else thinks, right? But that's a form of shedding that codependency. I no longer need that validation externally. I validate myself. And I learned to validate myself. And I want to talk about that a little bit, like how I actually came to learn to validate myself and basically shed codependency as a result. I don't feel codependent at all anymore, at all. I know I need people in my life. Of course, we all do, because we're all social creatures and we need to have those social interactions and we need those hugs and kisses. But at the same time, I'm not needy in the way that I used to be. I don't need that external validation. I don't need you to tell me that I'm pretty. I don't need you to say that I look good. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, if I feel good, I know I look good. I don't need that. But it took me like it was a really difficult journey for me to get here. And it was difficult because to shed codependency means you have to completely become okay with yourself. And I was not okay with myself. And that's still something that I'm going to work on, and I feel like I will have to work on for the rest of my life. And I think we all do, simply because as you're aging, your mind wants you to be like looking like you're 20, but the reality is that we're all aging, and aging has its signs and has its things about it, right? And so sometimes we feel less than. So I constantly have to just remind myself, like, you're good, man. Like, where you are right now in life and for how old you are and everything else, like, you're good. You're good. You don't need to compare yourself to 20-year-olds, which I do on social media. And then I start to remind myself, like, okay, that's actually even codependency too. Like, I don't need somebody else to validate my pretty, and I don't need to compare myself to your pretty, because that actually just makes me feel like shit. So now I'm kind of like dependent upon social media, like dictating or telling me what is pretty. Well, you know what? Pretty is whatever. It's in the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Don't we have that saying? For a reason. Yeah, we sure do. And that's so true. It really is so true. So for me to become codependent, I had to go through a very long period of being by myself, of literally not having anyone around to become codependent with. And that was definitely a personal choice. Not in the beginning. At first, I was definitely like actively trying to go out and find, you know, a boyfriend and like try to find a partner and all of this. And I was dating and I was getting out there, but it really didn't go well. And it wasn't going well because I didn't realize at the time I was still in like very victim mode kind of mindset. And I was definitely still very much heavy in codependency, but I didn't have the awareness yet at that time. So I kept attracting these guys that definitely wanted to do the whole codependency dance with me, right? And I was like, no, like none of them worked out. Again, at the time I didn't know though that's why it didn't work out. And now I do. Now I realize. So that's awesome. That shows me that I have grown, that I have overcome something within myself where I don't need that external validation anymore. And it's interesting because this happened to me with everyone, like literally everyone, like my family. I know there was definitely some codependency issues within the family, with the certain relationship dynamics between like my mom and dad and siblings and different things like that. But then there was also codependency with like even friends, you know, certain friends of like kind of needing their validation or just feeling like, I don't know, like you need or want them to, you know, boost you or to push you up or whatever. I don't know. I just find I don't even really, I don't want to say required, like, because I do require it. And of course I absolutely love to have, you know, to hear like positive messages from friends who are encouraging and who are like boosting me and pushing me up and stuff. But I just don't really have that need either anymore. Like I don't feel like I need that. I certainly have shifted that with my friend, with my one friend. Yeah, I just have way less dependency on her validations and different things like that. I don't need it. So, but again, to get here, like I went through this really dark period of being alone for a really long time. Like I'm talking years, many years, not just a few years, but many, many years. And again, that being alone has taught me, has allowed me to shed codependency. Because when you have nobody around to validate you, you have no fucking choice but to validate yourself. Like you just don't. And you can fall into despair, which I did. I definitely went through a phase of that where you fall into this despair and this feeling of like, well, fuck, is no one going to tell me that I'm doing a good job in life? Like, is no one going to tell me that? And, you know, I'm here to tell you, like, sometimes no, there isn't anyone to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now that you're doing an amazing job, an absolutely bomb ass job in your life. You're doing great. But if you don't have people in your life that are able to tell you that because they just don't want to see you succeed, and that's very unfortunate, but it's a very common issue, is many people feel like if, for example, like if, you know, if I succeed, then, you know, my friends might kind of feel like, oh, well, like I'm less than now because I am not where she is. But you don't need to compare your life to mine because you have your own goals and your own aspirations, right? So it's not about what I'm doing, right? And I realize it's also not about what other people are doing. It's always about what you're doing and what you're choosing and what you're wanting to experience in any given moment and what you're allowing yourself to experience in any given moment. With my codependency, there was a massive pairing of unworthiness. And that's another reason why I was so codependent, because I really didn't feel worthy of like my own love, of my own support, and of just of my own validation. Like I felt like I couldn't validate myself for the longest time because I didn't feel worthy of that validation from myself, because all I kept seeing on the outside of my life is how things are just hard and they're hard and they're hard, even though I'm working really hard at making them easier. It was still really, really difficult. So it kept pulling me back into this belief that like I'm not good enough, and that I'm not good enough feeling kept feeding this codependency issue with other people and then needing that external validation. So it's really multifaceted. And I just wanted to share that because if you are stuck in this loop of like always needing and wanting to hear, you know, positive things from other people towards you, then I'm here to tell you, like, if you don't hear that and if you don't get that from the people in your life, then you need to find some new friends and some new people. I know I definitely do. I need to have more people in my life that are really truly willing to support me and really willing to cheer me on the way that I am willing to cheer other people on, because I'm truly happy. Like, I'm genuinely happy for people when they succeed in life. Like, when I see people post, like, and they're holding up their like little YouTube like plaques, right? Like the gold plaques or the silver plaques, and they're like, woohoo, I made it to this. Like, I'm so fucking happy for those people, like, genuinely, because I know what it takes to get there. And I know that they also had to get there by putting in the work, right? They didn't get any like shortcuts or anything like that. They had to put in the work. So I'm genuinely happy for people when they do well and when they succeed. But are people genuinely happy for me when I do well and when I succeed? Well, the answer is probably not, unfortunately. And I'm not saying everybody, sure, my family and certain people, but even people in your family sometimes can't really be happy for you because they are stuck in codependency loops where they need external validation to feel like they're succeeding in life. And if they don't get it, or they don't have that, then they feel like they're losers. And then they project that onto other people. So when they see somebody else that's succeeding and doing well in life, then they're projecting resentment and like hate and jealousy and like all kinds of negative emotions, because they're so fucking codependent still. They're so wanting external validation for their worthiness because they don't know how to give it to themselves yet, that's what they end up doing, is they project. And I've noticed this with friends, I've noticed this with family, like with a lot of people in my immediate circle that literally just, and ironically, like, I just don't even share anything anymore, and that makes me kind of sad, to be honest, that I'm not able to currently at this time really share my success with my friends and family, because they just don't, they're just not genuinely happy for me. They're not. And they're not because I see the codependency that they have, and I see the lack of self-worth that they have, and they can't see themselves in a light where they could succeed, and that's why they are not able to really fully cheer me on when I'm succeeding. And that's a really tough thing to go through, because in life, I think we all really want support. And when you don't get that support from the outside, you have no choice but to be forced into giving yourself that support. And that is how I overcame my codependency. I overcame it because I was forced to overcome it through hardship, through going through this process of not being supported, of not being elevated or boosted, by my external environment. There was nobody, there's no fucking cheerleaders, on the sidelines for me. And there's no one here kind of going, woohoo, yes, Kata, like, you got this and you can do this. Other than my actual spirit guides, my angels, and the light beings that I work with, I don't, in human form, currently have anyone who is particularly happy for me, at least no one that I consciously am aware of, because I certainly don't have people coming and telling me like, oh, good job, and yay, you did this, and yay, you have more subscribers, and yay, your channel's growing, and yay, all the hard work is paying off. That's not really happening. So what choice did I have, or what choice do I have, other than to completely give up codependency and completely overcome it and say, fuck it. Like, if no one on the outside is going to cheer for me, then I'm going to cheer for me. And I'm going to be my own cheerleader and keep myself going in life and keep myself motivated. Because there is something that I saw online the other day, and somebody wrote a book. And the title of the book was They're Not Coming or something. Oh, no one's here to save you, or no one's coming to save you. That's what it was. No one's coming to save you. And I thought, how true. Like, really, there's no one in life that is going to come in and they're going to be like, okay, so here's how you get rid of codependency. I mean, I'm kind of doing that with this video right now. That's why I'm putting it out there. But, a lot of people aren't in our lives and in our immediate circles, for most of us anyway. Some people are very blessed and lucky, but most of us do not have a very good support system. And that's actually, I think, a part of what causes codependency in people. When at the same time, that is supposed to be the catalyst for getting you to overcome codependency. Because when you don't have the support team, then you have to become your own. That means you have to step out of victimhood. That means you have to step out of feeling stuck, out of your bad habits. That means you have to step out of all of those things that you do that you know self-sabotage. So are you able to do those things? Because that was the only thing and that was the only way. And I'm sorry, but I don't have this like beautiful yellow brick road open pathway to like, here's how you get to enlightenment. It's to get to enlightenment means to walk through the dark first. And that is what I'm realizing more and more. And before, I was super fucking resentful about that in my life, where now I have a clear understanding that I must walk through the darkness before I can see the light. Because in walking through that darkness, what am I doing? I'm overcoming massive fears, massive dependency issues, massive everything. Because when you're walking in that dark, the only light that you have is the light within you, the light within your heart. And that is the only flashlight that you have. And that's the powerhouse, the source that keeps you going and moving through that dark tunnel. You can't stop. You have to keep going through the dark tunnel. You have to keep walking the journey, no matter how fucking hard it is. You got to just keep walking it. Take it from me, from personal experience. I knew that there was no one coming to save me, and I knew that I was going to have to overcome my addiction by myself. I knew there wasn't going to be any AA meetings that I could go to that I was just going to join. There were probably, but to be honest, it just wasn't the avenue for me. I didn't even actively think to like search out some kind of a place to help me overcome my addiction. No, man, I had to do this on my own, and I chose to do it on my own. And that was also a massive, massive codependency. And to detach yourself from a codependency that's an addiction is really fucking hard, especially without help, without support. Oh my God. And then when you get like people like talking down at you because you have an addiction instead of seeing that you're fucking hurting and that's why you have an addiction, like, man, but like I could share so many stories of not being supported in my life in so many fucking ways by so many different people. And it's not to say like I'm not ungrateful or I'm not complaining. I have had an immense amount of support as well, but most of my support has actually been through spirit, has come through and has come from the invisible realm. It hasn't unfortunately come very much from my own 3D experience, although I do have some very beautiful positive stories as well of like people just helping me and supporting me when I least expected it. So that's also part of it. But for the most part, I've had a really fucking tough ride so far. And I've had to learn in very difficult ways that the best support system I could ever seek out is spirit, is connecting to my higher self, connecting to my own inner essence, and really creating a bond with that inner essence so that I don't need the external validation. I don't need to have those codependencies because I'm connected within myself enough and I feel strong and valuable and beautiful and just good enough within myself. And that is hard to get to. It takes time. But like I said, you got to walk through the shadow first. Like there's just no getting around it. There really isn't. Anyone that's made huge progress in their spiritual growth and huge progress, your spiritual growth means your human evolution. It means your soul evolution. How much better of a person have you become since you have been here on the planet? Or have you just been a badass your whole life and now you're realizing like maybe I should change my ways? Or you've been, jealous or whatever. Do you want to continue embodying those energies? It's up to us individually to shift out of whatever darkness we're in order to overcome that darkness and then become free of it, essentially. Because when you're not codependent, you are free. And I kind of wonder how it's going to be in my life once I do have a partner in my life, because right now I don't have a partner, and I have become so independent and so comfortable in my independence that I know that at this point, like, I so fucking passed that test. So at this point now, my next test or next challenge will be to, can you integrate with other people? Can you allow other people back into your space and adjust yourself a little bit so that it can work in a beautiful, harmonious way where it feels just like a beautiful flowing relationship where there's no codependency, there's just love and mutual respect and understanding, and that is what is shared. And that's the place where I'm at now, that's the partner that I'm attracting in now, because I know I'm not going to attract codependent people because I'm not codependent. Like, oh, so not codependent. So, but it was really hard, man, to get to that, to get to here, to go through that. It was really challenging. And I will tell you right now, the best way that you can overcome codependency is by being alone. Be alone and do things by yourself. And start to realize that you are fucking capable. So much more capable than you ever thought. So just keep that in mind. This is my message for today about codependency. I hope there was something in here for you, and I hope it sparked some kind of motivation within you to want to eliminate codependency in your life, because it's not good for us. It's not good for anyone. And I think when you can become completely detached from people and from outcomes, then you have absolute freedom within your spirit and within your soul. And that spirit and that freedom allows you to feel invincible, and it allows you to feel like everything is possible. And then you just trust, and that trust grows within you, and it brings things into your life that you never even expected. Why? Because you stayed detached and you stayed independent, not codependent. So that's my message about that, guys. I hope it was helpful. Take care. I love you all, and I will see you in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.